Good afternoon. My name is Kim Walker, and I am the director of the Women's Philanthropy Board, which is an educational outreach program out of the College of Human Sciences at Auburn University. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We're thrilled to be able to feature Dr. Brianne Smith, newly minted from 2 weeks ago, for this roundtable. For those of you who are not familiar with Women's Philanthropy Board, like I said, we're an educational outreach program in the College of Human Sciences, and our mission is to provide educational events that focus on financial wellness and philanthropic engagement. In addition, we sponsor mentoring initiatives for Auburn University students, and we practice collective philanthropy in support of students and programs in the College of Human Sciences. We are a membership-based organization, and all of our educational programs, mentoring initiatives, and philanthropic impact are funded by our 200 individual members and 25 corporate and business partners. And if you are ever interested in learning more about WPB membership, please let us know. WPB is the flagship division of the Carey Center for the Advancement of Philanthropy and Nonprofit Studies, and which is an academic program center out of Auburn. And the Carey Center also includes programs for youth, such as Camp I Care, and the community, such as our nonprofit affiliate program. This is our 19th virtual roundtable since we have been in our new normal. And we have a great one coming up next week as well that we hope you will join us for on the basics of estate planning. And that will be next Tuesday at noon here on Zoom. And we have two great experts from Warren Averett CPAs and advisors who will be sharing information on estate planning. Follow us on Facebook if you're on Facebook. That's where we post when we have new events coming up. And if you ever miss an event, we try very hard within a couple of days to get those recorded events posted on our YouTube account. And that is an Albi account, aub.ie/WPB YouTube. For our session today, if you have any comments or questions, you can put those in the chat and Brianne will address those at the end of her presentation. And I just want to thank you very much for being here with us. And I want to thank Dr. Smith for being here. And I'm going to turn it over to her and let her tell you a little bit about her background.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I'll start a PowerPoint presentation in just a moment, but I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the Women's Philanthropy Board for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. I've been looking forward to this all year, and I'm just so thankful to be a part of an organization with such a mission. This year has been one to remember. I am a financial advisor and a personal CFO, and I'm also a professor at Auburn University Montgomery, and I teach accounting. So I have a strong financial background. In fact, the two guys who are talking next week from Warren Averett, I worked with for 14 years at Warren Averett. And I was a professor at Huntington College for 5 years when I started my doctorate. And I now am on my own with my own financial services practice. And I also teach, which is a passion of mine. Particularly love to talk to groups of women. That is also my area of expertise as far as research is concerned, and financial literacy of women. So I'm going to now try to start my PowerPoint. Okay. Okay, so today's topic I'm really excited to bring to you is own your influence. And when I was looking at the mission statement of the Women's Philanthropy Board, and then Kim just shared quite a bit of that, and that The mission is to inspire, educate, and enable individuals to develop their full potential, achieve financial independence as donors and decision makers, and serve as mentors for future philanthropists. This topic today, I think, is well aligned with that mission, and that over the course of this next hour, I hope to open your eyes to an asset you do not know you have, and maybe even have not been nurturing it in such a way that would be most beneficial for you to be aligned with these missions of the Women Philanthropy Board. So I'm really excited to be sharing a little bit more about what that asset is. But before I do, I wanted to first mention, why does women's influence matter? Well, women give more money to charity than men, according to a recent collection of case studies done by the Women's Philanthropy Institute this year, and that women give in similar sizes as men, but more frequently. Also, young girls and women organizations are funded more by women than men as well. And women are increasingly becoming entrepreneurs and owning their own business. And now 36% of small businesses are owned by women. Women are contributing more now to the financial security of the family. And this is also very true in other countries, in addition to the United States. And women are in control of more than 20 million in annual spending. And one particular influence we might not think about, as far as, we're thinking about our own financial knowledge, but we as mothers are also more influential on the financial knowledge of our children than the dads. So this is quite an impact that we have. So if we know our influence is important, then why is ownership an issue? Well, 56% of women delegate their investment in financial planning decisions to their spouses or someone else. 43% of women breadwinners leave major financial decisions up to the spouse. And we're living longer than the guys, on average, 5 years longer. And also, unfortunately, about 50% of first marriages end in divorce, and 67% of second marriages, and an even higher percentage of third marriages. Women have, on average, 1 million less in assets than men when they're at retirement age, and they're 35% more likely to be in poverty. And women are still consistently scoring lower on financial knowledge surveys than men. And one area that this is actually my area of research, is on gender role attitudes, as far as women acquiring financial knowledge, and how does our attitude towards what our gender role should be, how does that impact our financial knowledge? And it's really interesting because our gender role attitude, so for example, I may have a traditional gender role attitude if I believe women should work at home and not outside the home. We don't believe that men should share in the housework. We don't have time to participate in employment because we have family responsibilities. I would say that would be just a general traditional gender role attitude, versus a non-traditional. So women works too, participates in the financial decisions, and sharing of the household work is also part of that attitude. Well, this attitude impacts our perceptions of the benefits of being more knowledgeable in finances. So if we have a traditional gender role attitude, we actually perceive that less beneficial to gain more financial knowledge. And this also impacts our perception of the cost it takes to learn. So we perceive that it's too high of a cost as far as time and just the psychic cost of the learning process. Those costs are too high to learn more financial knowledge. And so we found that gender role attitudes, in fact, does significantly impact women's financial knowledge. And just in summary, women earn less. We take pivots out of the workforce and have less lifetime earnings than the guys. We live longer. We have higher risk of healthcare costs and retirement because some of that retirement will be alone. And so we have, as women, an opportunity to own these issues now before they become a problem later. And so I have found that women are really, there are a lot of movements right now to empower women, which I don't disagree with, and give more women confidence. But I feel like women are adequately empowered. I have found in my research that women are actually confident in the basic financial check writing and applying their financial knowledge that they do know. It's that they don't know what they don't know. We women don't know that there's so much more that we need to be participating in as far as our finances. So we are perhaps adequately empowered and inadequately educated in finances. And so that's going to kind of follow along that theme of owning this issue because we want to have the influence and reach our full potential as far as being financially independent and mentoring the next generation of philanthropists and owning this influence. So what is this asset I'm talking about that you have? Well, it is in the research literature called human capital, although sometimes that to me gets confused with the workforce. So I like to refer to it as personal capital, but personal capital, human capital, I'm using interchangeably here. So here's a chart of the difference between the asset human capital, which is your knowledge and capacity to make decisions. And this knowledge and capacity to make decisions impacts your ability to earn money. And so what I want you to look at first is this downward sloping line that starts at 50 on the left and ends at 65 at the bottom. And so this is a line that indicates the present value of an individual's future income stream if that individual was making $50,000 a year and made $50,000 a year till age 65. So at age 25, you just get out of school, you just get out of grad school, and you start making $50,000 a year at age 25. At that time, the present value of all the future income that you will receive at $50,000 a year is $750,000. So that is an asset you could actually mentally put on your personal balance sheet, is that my earnability is worth $750,000. And so we can actually improve this amount, and we need to maintain it and take care of it because it can be impacted just like any other asset. So, cars, jewelry, houses, the value of these assets fluctuates with the market, and with over time could increase or decrease in value. And so one thing that I want you to notice is as your human capital is being realized over the years, you're supposed to be saving that and turning it into investment capital or financial capital. So that's the upward sloping line at the very bottom of the chart. So this is a normative picture. So this is what it's supposed to look like. You're supposed to, as you're earning, put a little bit of it away so that it grows. And then at age 65, you stop working and then you spend it. And that's your retirement nest egg. So your human capital and your financial capital are working together to get to that point where we can impact positively your financial well-being later in life and all throughout your earning life. So one thing that's really important to realize, and this is maybe the most important thing, is that your personal capital can be acquired or improved. But there's also elements of your personal capital that you cannot change. You cannot change if your parents were educated. You cannot change your IQ, your race, your personality. Those are just endowed characteristics that you can't change. You can, however, acquire other aspects of personal capital, which can improve your human capital. So this could include training, education. It could be formal or informal education, experience in the workforce, but it could also be other types of experience, certifications. And then also, your human capital can be finance specific. So your financial knowledge and how much you know about finances is an element of your personal capital. And the reason that this is because the idea is as you become more knowledgeable in your finances, you have the benefit of improved decision-making of your finances. And so this is definitely, your financial knowledge is definitely part of your personal capital here, and can be finance specific. So I want to walk you through, these are not the only 4 ways, but 4 ways that I think are particularly important this year, which has been a very crazy year. And this time of year, because we're so close to the end of the year, which everybody is counting down the days for, let's just get to 2021 already. So these are 4 areas that I think could be very impactful in investing in your personal capital right now. And you can do all of these things without spending any money. So I'm going to tell you a story. And I'm sorry, I'm going to start off with a sad one. So this is a true story, and I will not name any names, but I do want you to know that I am not honing in on marital status in particular. I just didn't want to include anybody's names, but I did want to distinguish differences between stories. So married woman is, the married part is not especially the issue here. Okay, so true story, many years ago, back when I was in practice, and I did quite a bit of work through the church and working with women through various issues. And this particular woman was in an abusive marriage. She had 2 kids, 2 young kids, and she did not work, and also informed me that she did not know where they banked, didn't know how much money they had, how much money her husband made, didn't know where the mortgage was through for the house, or even if they had a mortgage. She was unaware of any of the financial aspects of the marriage. And so as I worked through some of these issues with this woman, it actually ended up where I didn't get to talk to her for quite some time. She didn't contact me for quite some time. And then I heard just through the grapevine later that she'd committed suicide. So this is the absolute worst possible outcome that I could think of as far as being in an abusive relationship, and you feel so trapped in that you have no other options. And so this story is one that I tell a lot because it is actually one part of my personal mission and passion in talking to women, because this is what I don't ever want to hear of happening again. Because while there were certainly options, this woman didn't feel like she had another option. She told me she She doesn't know where she would work, even if she did. Even if she could work, where would she work? And didn't have a skill set and felt very trapped. So one part of your personal capital that someone told me when I was a very young mother, or was just becoming a very young mother, was even if you take pivots out of the workforce, don't let your skill set decline. Keep up your certifications, continue to do your continuing education, go your training, stay connected with your network. And this, I think, relates to the story because this particular woman didn't feel like she had a skill set and didn't at this point have one. And that's not the solution that I would say was her solution in that moment, but something on the front end and before something uncertain happens, because there's other things that could happen that you're not planning for in your life. You don't plan, when you get married, you don't plan for the divorce. You're not thinking about that could happen. You're not thinking about my husband could die, or there's a disability for the income earner. You're not thinking about pandemics and job loss and illness of your parents and your kids. And so preparing when things are okay, or preparing now, like don't even wait another day. These things are important for your personal capital to nurture your skill set. And if you feel like you don't have a skill set, start working on one. And what's beautiful about today in technology is that you can watch. I remember, not knowing how to mow a lawn and watching a YouTube video on how to start the lawnmower so I could mow my own lawn. We can literally get on YouTube or buy a book or an audio book or read articles and blogs and learn a skill for free. And the internet is such a opportunity to just in an informal way create a skill or an ability to earn. Now, certainly formal education is wonderful and it would be ideal, but in the event you can't do that, there are other ways to nurture and gain a skill set. So how this skill set impacts your financial capital, I like to call earnability. As women, we make less typically, and we earn less over time because we come in and out of the workforce. And when I first started having children, I have 3 kids. I worked at an accounting firm, and my step back was I'm only going to work 40 hours a week year round, which sounds like pretty normal hours. But during tax season, we used to have to work 52 to 55 required hours a week. And so I took a step back and did a little, at that time, it was really great because we could start working from home also. So I would get some of my hours in the evenings as well after the kids were in bed. But it did impact my earnings for a while. And so I did make that pivot as well, but while keeping up the skill set that I had along the way. And so if you don't have an earnability aspect in your personal capital tool belt, you can always start now. And you can start with your passions and start working on the ability to earn. Even if you are not earning, you have the ability to if you need to. Another story. This is also a true story of a single woman. Again, marital status is not really the important part here. But this particular woman was in her mid-50s, and she was a high-paid project manager, had a really great job, and she was stolen away to another great firm And because she was so great, higher pay and new company, and she took this new job and made that pivot to a different position. But what happened was the work environment was not the greatest fit for her, and it was actually really stressful. And her boss was very critical and very degrading and demeaning, and she just didn't want to go to work anymore. And it really started impacting her mindset and her attitude, and then her feelings of her abilities and her confidence. And so what she ended up doing was she quit her job at a very low mental place. So she got into this job like really confident and really driven and making higher money and doing really good. And over the course of, she was there about 6 or 8 months, just took a dive mentally with all of those things that she came in really strong on. And so for about a year, she had trouble getting a job after that because she just couldn't get out of the rut mentally. And so one area that we can invest in our personal capital is absolutely just taking care of ourselves. And I've heard this so many times this year, and it's so important. It seems so easy, but it really is difficult in times of stress, and you've got so many things coming at you, and different environments, maybe in a new job, different relationships or people that you're working with, or in times of a pandemic where everything is just different. And you now have to really work through how things are going to look now. So even just some of the very basic taking care of self, rest, brushing your teeth, getting up, getting dressed and getting ready and getting outside and exercising. You know, we've this year has really been the year of all those routines and habits are just out the window. And now we've got all these new ones and new routines that necessarily weren't most beneficial to us. So one thing that, and this particular woman did over the course of that year, who she now has a fabulous job, but she really had to come to terms with where she was mentally. And it just happened so quickly and so fast. And so staying in tune with your routines that are most beneficial to your personal well-being and your caring for yourself. You know, put that oxygen mask on yourself and get a support system. I feel like walking with her through this last year, she had quite a strong support system in that, like I said, she wasn't married, but she had a church home, of family members, and then she had some professional relationships from previous jobs that she really just stayed in tune with, and really just now has come out of it stronger mentally, so that she could, you know, she would go to job interviews and couldn't get through a job interview, or someone that I have known was such a confident interviewer before. So just an adverse work environment really took a toll. And so we need to step back and nurture the caring for ourselves as part of taking care of that asset of human capital, personal capital of ourselves. This self-care impacts our capacity in making financial decisions, our capacity to learn. When we're not really taking care of ourselves, it's really hard to learn or critically think. It's hard to earn at a level that we could earn, especially if your income is not predictable or based on your output. Could impact your earnings, and also could impact your decision making. This is a big one. I bring up fear here. And that fear can be debilitating. Like it could just absolutely make it so that you just can't even make a decision. If you make a decision, you're making them out of fear and not facts, you know? And so that when we're at a place where we're making decisions based on feelings, it could even be elation, like we're just so, happy and everything's going great. And so we're not monitoring our spending. We're just spending wildly and taking more risks because we feel like right now everything's great. But in reality, we should really step back and not be making those financial decisions based on how we feel. Okay. And then this is the third story, I believe. This woman was in her mid-70s. She and her husband were married a very long time, over 40 years, and he died suddenly in a very tragic accident. And he, while was well prepared financially for her to, be taken care of as a widow, she was not prepared for the financial decision making of that season. And so she told me, when we got married 40 years ago, he asked me, how do you want to split up the bills? And I said, you take care of tracking it and I'll just spend it. That's what she told me. She said, I'll spend it and you take care of the decisions. And that's exactly what they did for a very long time. Is he did all the financial aspects. He tracked all the money. He did all the banking relationships. He had the relationship with the CPA, the attorney, the advisor, and he knew all of those people and she didn't, which was her choice. And now he's gone. And now she's working with advisors who she doesn't know, who she did not pick those advisors or those relationships. And she's run into this issue of the advisors are making the decisions for her now. So she wants, and I guess that's the same kind of relationship she had with her husband. He made the decisions, and now she is delegating and allowing advisors to make decisions for her. And I was talking to her one time, and I just asked, well, have you considered this other option? And she said, I did not know I had options. I was told this was the way to go, and no one walked me through my options or my choices. And so when we come into a time and a season like this, where now we are responsible for all our financial decisions and haven't been this whole time, we run the risk of continuing to delegate those decisions, to someone else. And that may not be in our best interest. So one thing that you can do now is get experience. And I don't mean experience like job experience, although on-the-job experience or participating in the job market is certainly a way to increase your knowledge. But also volunteering and participating in philanthropy is also a way to gain experience, because when you sit on a board or you work with a nonprofit organization, you become very familiar with the inner workings of fundraising and how that money is spent. And you also could be involved in the decision making and the time and the resources as part of that organization. And then also one way, even if you don't work in the job market, you could actually have your own business and continue to work in the home and continue to have the responsibilities that you did before, as far as sharing in the household. And you could still have a business as well. And I know many women who are doing this. I see you on Facebook with your businesses, and it's great because it's the ability to have the home, working from the home, and the ability to earn. And you also gain experience when you run your own business, however small or big it is, in making those financial decisions, which we need experience in. Probably the biggest advice I could give you as far as experience is concerned is go to the meetings, attend the meetings, because there are meetings about where financial decisions are made, and it may be up to this point you don't attend those. Attend. Ask to attend a meeting, ask to make a meeting, ask the advisor to walk you through what's going on, and ask questions. Because there are choices to be made, and there's also, that's a great learning opportunity when you're meeting with some professional or advisor. When you ask questions, you're actually learning too. So you're making the financial decision, but that's such an opportunity to learn right in the moment, and even do research ahead of time or afterwards, or get second opinions, which gains experience. And experience is really important aspect of personal capital. It impacts your financial capital and your confidence to make financial decisions, and also asset protection. So it's a way, when you gain experience and you understand that questions need to be asked and protection needs to be in place, to making sure those things are happening. I didn't share another story, I'll just insert it right here, of a young woman. She's mid-60s now, but she was young when she lost her husband unexpectedly, and they did not have life insurance. And it has been a very hard 30 years for her, because no one was planning for that to happen. She had 2 kids to take care of, and she did not work at the time, and has had to go back to school, gain a skill, and work her way through not having that protection on the front end, and giving her that transition ability to transition to a single mother, widow mother. She did it without life insurance. And so had she thought maybe 30 years ago, or as we are women now, thinking about that story and how we could impact our well-being, learning from it is ask that question. If something happens to you, are we protected? And one thing I talk to women about too is, it's really important to have protection over moms too, because if the mom unexpectedly dies first and there's young kids in the home, that could make it very difficult for dad to continue to work and in the capacity that he was before. And so it's also very important to have that hard conversation also. Last story is the story of a newly graduated woman. And this woman was a young veterinarian right out of school, making really high income, and had a very secure job right out of college, right out of vet school. She immediately bought a very nice car and a house, and all the furniture that went in the house, and all the upkeep. And she also had student loans and ran up quite a bit on credit cards. So while she was in a great earnability situation, she had spending without planning issue, and then also spending maybe too quickly and too much. And so at the point where I met her, she was wildly in debt, but wanted to start her own practice. And that made it very difficult to accomplish because she had created such a difficult financial situation for herself. And one thing that I think could help here is to educate ourselves throughout college and preparing for that new job, and just paying attention to the basics. One thing that's really important is we might have that high income, and we might even have high value of assets. So you have a $500,000 house, but owe $550,000 to the bank. So if that was your only asset and your only debt, you actually have negative net worth. It doesn't matter how much income you're bringing in or the value of that top line, that $500,000 house, you're still in the red on the bottom line of your net worth. And so we have to think about as we gain these assets that if we're using debt to pay for them without making a plan, you could actually end up impacting negatively your bottom line. And so we think of those two things as working together. And this increasing your financial knowledge goes for everyone, not just young women, not just middle-aged women, not just later in life women. Talking about all women can increase their financial knowledge no matter what season you're in. And I feel like the basics of the budgeting is just pretty clear cut. Like, have a budget. Apps are great. Talk with a financial advisor who will work with you to create one, and know what the numbers are. What do you need to be saving? And also think about it outside of yourself, because if you're spending every dime you make, you cannot impact the community financially. And you won't get to that point where you can be independent enough to impact the community financially and participate in philanthropy. So it's our responsibility to own this issue of needing to increase our knowledge, and then just never stop learning. Just never stop. There's so much to know. And I wish I had 2 more hours to walk you through all of these various aspects of financial knowledge that are, I would say, a key 8 to start with. Estate planning is number 7, and you're going to have the opportunity next week to tune in to that. That special webinar next Tuesday will be really good, but also just the basics of your credit score, interest rates, and debt. If you have debt in your financial picture, I would say that would be a really great place to start. And savings, I'll just hop to number 3, and 5% of your income is not enough. It's just not enough. Research shows that only saving 5% of your income will not get you where you want to be at retirement to take care of yourself. And so knowing what that number is, it's just a calculation and something that you can talk with a financial advisor about. And once you know what it is, then you can start working towards goals of saving along the way. And I'll just, this is my last point here, is that financial knowledge improves your decision making. And so with the improved decision making, the benefit of that is you get to increase your consumption ability. And you also, with that increased knowledge and decision making, we can understand the importance of taking the time needed, which is the cost we perceive as very high of doing this. Taking the time needed is beneficial because of the improved decision making that we will experience. I sort of covered these, but these are in summary, threats to our personal capital, which is just our lack of awareness and ownership, toxic relationships, threats to personal capital. What's interesting about this one is when we're in a relationship, we have this bargaining power as in a relationship, and when we have more earning power, it's supposed to increase our bargaining power. But sometimes in a heterosexual relationship between a man and a woman, when a woman's bargaining power goes up, research shows that sometimes that has an adverse effect on the relationship, and there's not actually increased power, there's increased adversity, and maybe even some thwarting of those efforts of her increased power. Also, I touched on upkeep of your skills so that they do not depreciate, And improving your skills is possible. So if you don't have a fixed mindset, which is Carol Dweck wrote a book called Mindset, where she says that there's, the one mindset of I can't change any of my circumstances or my abilities. They are fixed. And then there's a growth mindset where you understand that you have the ability to grow and improve. And so having a fixed mindset and thinking that you can't make any changes is a threat to your personal capital. So just real briefly, because I know we're running short on time, I want to have time for your questions, is the last 30 days of the year is a really great time to focus on your personal capital. And if we just look at these 4 areas, we can really make some impact in just a short amount of time. I always like to think of December 31 as a deadline. And this girl loves a deadline because she, it's an end date. And then January 1 feels like a new beginning. So we have this 12/31 deadline that we can work hard towards. And then January 1, like a clean slate, January 1 start over. So I love this time of year as far as personal development planning. And if you just focus on these 4 areas, I want to give you a couple of tips here. Just focus on one goal that would have the biggest impact. So here's those 4 areas: self-care, skill set, experience, or financial knowledge. What is one thing, just one thing that would make the biggest impact in your personal capital between now and December 31, and write it down. And the necessary endings. I love this Henry Cloud book. What are some things that we picked up this year or we're doing this year that we need to quit? Just pick one. What would be the most impactful end of something? And then let's just quit doing that and write it down. And then tell somebody. That can be really hard because when you tell somebody, it's almost like a way to make a commitment is when you make it known that you have made this commitment. And here's how I like to plan when I write it out. So you've got your one goal and your one end, and get real clear on where you are right now with that. This would be really, if we were talking about weight, which I'm not only talking about, it could be weight. Use where you are right now is how much you weigh right now. And where do you want to be would be what's the goal of where you want to be. That's just an easy example. So where are you right now with that one thing? Own it. And then determine where you want to be December 31 and make it attainable, but still challenging. And also trackable. And then after you've written those out, what are the actions you need to take to get there? And staying on track can be really hard if we're looking at performance and in a light of what everybody else is doing. But if you would just focus on, am I doing it? Am I a little bit further along today than yesterday? And comparing your today self to your yesterday self, that's such a much better way to track your progress. It's just you yesterday. And so we're focusing as women at balance. There's like some perfect balance equilibrium out there that we're in search of. But really, like, instead of focusing on being balanced, let's just focus on this upward trend of I'm doing a little bit better today than I was yesterday. And I mean, that's so much easier to track and attain. And revisit this every day for the 30 days, the last 30 days of the year. I like to do this in a journal. And then you could also do this with your financial capital. These are the 4 key areas of financial planning: debt, asset protection, and delegating your financial decisions are the 4 threats to your financial capital. And then also, I would say this is a good time of year to be thinking about what needs to happen before the end of the year as far as financial decisions, because after 12/31, it's too late. You have time to make some decisions for 2020 now. And so we've got a couple more months of the year to do that. What do we need to quit doing? Understand your risk profile, which I think is really important. And I have, if you'll send me an email, I'll show you my email at the end of the slides. Write my email down. I'll send you a survey and you can see what is my risk profile. And I think every woman should know this about herself. And then once you get through the 30 days, I kind of towards the end of December, I like to look ahead to 2021. And it's a little bit more formal as far as all the aspects of my life. And I have a big book. I do this every December where I take these 8 areas. I write out an affirmation for that area, where I am, where I want to be at the end of 2021. And then what are the actions that I need to take to get there? And if you make them in those small steps and track it on a weekly or even monthly basis, even if you don't hit them all, at the end of 2021, you will have made progress. That's really all we're trying to look for. We're just trying to make progress. And that to me is something that everybody should do. Everybody should always just be trying to improve and develop. And I just always tell my friends and my family that I'm being sharpened, constantly being sharpened, and that will never end until I'm dead. Is it just don't want to be treading water. I always want that upward trend of developing, because things are changing around us constantly. And if we aren't, keeping up with the areas that are most important to our lives, and we get lost and off track. And so with that, please write down my email address. This is also my office line. You'll get me directly if you call that number. Please like my Facebook page and my LinkedIn page. If you send me an email, which I would just send it now, go ahead and email me right now and say, send me step 1, and I'll send you a link, and you can take that survey so that you know what your risk profile is. It's just 10 multiple choice questions, and it's your opinion, how you feel about it. So it's not really a right or wrong answer. So it would be good for you to know what your risk profile is. And that's always the first step to take in the financial planning process. So I would be happy to talk with you more if you need someone to talk to about your personal capital or your financial capital. And I hope I have enough time to take questions. Do I have some time for questions?
Yes, we have a few minutes. If you have any questions, you can put those in the chat, and I will start off because one of my favorite newlyweds is on here, and I wondered what advice you might have for a newlywed woman, especially. When I was in college, my best friend's mom, the advice she gave to us was always have separate money. Always have a little stash somewhere. So I wondered what your advice would be to a newlywed.
I love this question, and there's really not a one size fits all answer, because it does depend on the dynamics of the relationship, I'll say. But most importantly, whether you decide to keep items separate, the finances separate, I do think that there should be some consistent communication and collection of finances between the two, because when you share finances, you get the ability of it's almost like sharing an office with another doctor. 2 doctors share all the expenses. You actually could pool your money and be better off by sharing everything in that way, and using your financial picture together to be most efficient. But sometimes that's not the best for a couple, particularly couples who both are really high income earners. It can be a lot different in that dynamic. So if you have a partner who is willing to have this conversation with you, I'd say that's a really good sign. But if you have a partner not willing to have this conversation with you, that's also a sign. So I would say that communication is key, a key goal in however you treat your finances, and always having business meetings, I think, is beneficial. I've heard of couples who, which I think works well, who have regular monthly business meetings. And this is something actually that if you have the right advisor, you could do with your advisor, who can help facilitate, especially when maybe there's some adversity but over the finances, and having that third party as part of that business meeting and helping you work through goals and maybe even trying to pay off debt is nice to have a professional to work with.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything?
I'll ask one real quick.
Okay.
So like we were talking about earlier, I have twins, and my husband and I have been talking about saving for their future, not just college, but cars and things like that. What is your recommendation on setting up savings accounts or things of that nature, investing money in different places? What would you recommend?
I love this question too. And what I typically walk my clients through in order of priority, I would say. There's a priority. And so depending on where you're starting in the process is, I guess, the priority of saving for kids. And so if you are massively, just in general, massively in debt, I would say that saving for kids' college right now is not the priority. And we would focus on, in order, here's my order. I like to address debt, make sure we have emergency savings, and that we are maxing out our retirement accounts and saving for big purchases. And then we can turn our focus to saving for our kids. And I like to do it in that order. Sometimes all of that can be accomplished all at the same time, and sometimes it takes time. And taking time is okay, just so long as you get started. Thank you.
Well, if there isn't anything else, then I guess we'll wrap up right on time. Thank you so much, Brianne, for leading this today and providing some advice that all women and a lot of men probably need to know too. And please, Brianne is very open to talking with anyone, so please feel free to reach out to her. And I hope that we see you all next Tuesday for our estate planning session. So if that's it, I guess we'll see you later. Thank y'all so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Kim, that was good.
Yes, it was.
It was real good. I love that. Let me know when you get that on Doo-Walkie, and I will.
Hello, this is Kim. Yeah, I will. I'll try to get it loaded up today.
Okay, great. Yeah, I love it.
If I don't get it today, I'll get it in the morning.
Perfect.
But yeah,
okay.
I feel like all college girls especially need to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've got to take off. I have got to